Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's Mike, VA3MW from FlexRadio, and today we have Kyle joining us, Alpha Alpha Zero Zulu from St. Louis, who I've actually had the honor of meeting a few times from your Hamfest, right?
Yeah, Flex came to Winterfest, which is in January every year, and sponsored our banquet. So thank you for that. And I think you guys had a good showing. So yeah, it was good. It was
Yeah,
good meeting everyone from Flex too.
I remember that. It was the weekend of the NHL All-Star Game where my other friends and hobby were across the
It
river.
was. We talked about that at the banquet. Yep.
It's going, are you coming over? No. So anyway. And then, Kyle's done a whole lot with remote, and I know we've spent a lot on remote, but it can be a bit of a school of hard knocks. So I've asked him to join us and sort of take us down what he's done, and he jumped into learning a little bit about Node-RED, and of course he's from that side of the IT black world sort of thing. But I don't think for about 3 weeks you slept once you got started in Node-RED. You probably went down the okay, I got this working. But now if I get that working, I can get this working, and I get those, and then it just got bigger.
Yeah. It's Node-RED is great because it can take. It is a program language that you can learn as a non-programmer. I don't program. I don't do that for my day job. I don't do that for my night job. But I was able to go pretty much down the rabbit hole on once I loaded a flow and saw how it worked, then the floodgates opened.
I call it a programming language or an integration language for geeky guys like us. I mean, I can probably write Hello World in about 9 languages, and I've got the books, and I've sat down like, okay, over Christmas, I'm going to learn C#.
Right.
And then I get into databases, and I go, I don't want anything to do with databases, and then I lose it. But these flowy things that Dave WO2X has helped so many people with, and it's been cool. Anyway, so we sort of jumped into the middle, but I'm just sort of saying hi to everybody. We've got look at that, we have Kyle. Okay, I won't bring you up. Of course, we have Len. He's no stranger to programming, actually. If you want to make your own Maestro version,
oh, wow.
Len's been doing that. We had him on before.
I've seen that. Yeah, that is a cool project that he's working on.
And hey, Rick, and we've got Kevin. So anyway, what to start? What took you down the? Why remote? What did you decide to do? How got you here?
Yeah, so I live in the city. I live in St. Louis City, and you can imagine, my house. I can touch my neighbor's house by standing beside my house, right? So there's a ton of RF. There's not a lot of room to put an antenna. So I was looking for a remote solution. And of course, Flex, has the remote solution right out of the box, right? So I'm like, all right, let me get a Flex. And I got a Flex, and I had it here at the house and was doing some digital stuff, but I needed to get out more, right? I needed to put some dipoles up. I needed to put some end feds up, and I just didn't have enough room. So the first iteration of my remote station I put at my parents' house, and there's a picture of it here on the screen here if you want to. So that is my Flex 6700 power supply. I had a random wire with an Elecraft KAT 500 tuner that plugged directly back into the back of the Flex and got all the band data. I had a watt meter there, but the board that you see there is kind of the brains of the remote system, right? And
it looks more complicated than it really is, right?
It is. I mean, if I can do this, anybody can do this. This is off-the-shelf stuff that you can buy on Amazon. And I'll take you kind of through some of the stuff that I've got in here. And then once you break it down into smaller pieces, it's very simple. So that device up in the upper right-hand corner, upper left-hand corner, that is just, it's a digital loggers web relay. And you can buy them off Amazon. And basically they plug into your network. and you get into it through, it gets an IP address, you can get into it through a web page, and you just configure all of the individual receptacles for what you want to plug into. And you can see I've got a ton of things plugged into it, and it's literally got just a front-end web interface that says turn receptacle 1 on, turn receptacle 2 on, turn number 3, and turn number 4 on. And if you take one of those relays, one of those receptacles that you could turn on and off, and you connect it to your power supply, which then you just put your power supply in the on position all the time. Therefore, you have a way to turn your power supply on and off remotely.
Okay, and you don't have to use Node-RED for all this. There's a built-in web
right.
page.
This is all. So this is what you're seeing right here on the screen over there is all pre-Node-RED. This is just, you know, I was able to get into these devices through my firewall, and I did some configuration on the firewall so I could get in here. And all you really need is access to the web relay, which is in the upper left-hand corner, and another relay system, which is down in the bottom right. And that's the only things you really need to do to get your system online.
Mm-hmm. And it's got one really cool feature, right? When your internet goes offline.
Yeah. So the web relay, the thing in the upper left-hand corner, it's got some programming language in it that allows you to ping an outside IP. Let's say Google, for lack of a better IP. And what it does is it pings that IP, and if it doesn't see that IP within a couple of minutes, it automatically, you can tell it to automatically cycle one of those ports, one of those receptacles, and of course you put that receptacle, you plug your internet router into that receptacle, and if it can't ping Google, it will automatically reboot your modem. And it's got some other logic in there to say, you know, if you don't see it in 5 minutes, reboot it, and then wait 10 minutes, and then reboot it again, and then wait another 10 minutes, and then reboot it again, and then you can say, all right, stop it.
We give up, you're dead.
Yeah, you give up. Your internet is done. So that's one of the nice features about that web relay.
And the reason that's so important is if you ever have an internet problem and you call your ISP, what's the first thing they say? They say, excuse me, could you please reboot your modem and clear your cache?
Right.
Anyway,
I'm like, oh, I've got a solution for that.
I got a solution for that, yeah.
So that's where all the power comes in, and that's where you can control things like your internet relay, your power supply for your Flex. Down in the lower right-hand corner of the screen there's a PC. It's sitting on the floor. It's underneath that table that I bought from IKEA. And that's just a regular PC that I've got local to the machine, and I'm able to web into that with AnyDesk. And TeamViewer gave me some hiccups, so I moved to AnyDesk. And then also, if you've got a Chrome remote desktop, you can use that to remote into it. That in the BIOS, you can set your BIOS to say if your PC sees power, automatically boot. So let's say you have a power outage at your house and your PC turns off. Well, how do I get that PC back on? Well, in the BIOS, once power is restored, the BIOS says, "Oh, I've got power," and automatically boots up. So that's a nice feature on if you're not doing that with your local PC, go into the BIOS and turn that on. So the other thing that is kind of key in this whole scenario is on the tan board, in the lower right-hand corner, there is a Kmtronix Web Relay. And the Web Relay has its 8 ports, and it plugs into Ethernet, and it's got a web page. It's got a very simple GUI, and it gets an IP, and you can IP web into it, and it basically says, turn port 1 on, turn port 2 on, turn port 3 on. And what you can do is the Flex on the back of it there's 2 connections that you want to plug a port on the Kmtronix Web Relay into. It's the remote power on. And if you go into the interface of the Flex, you have to turn that on through, I think it's, Mike, keep me honest here. It is it under, I can't remember.
Oh,
where
it's right in
at.
the beginning. It says remote on, but it's in the manual too. So
yep. So you want to turn the ability to remote on your Flex, and you'll just get an RCA jack, and you'll plug that into the web relay, and the other jack that you want to connect is your push to talk. Why do you want to do your push to talk? Well, if
there's
you ever,
a relay.
Yep, Kmtronix.
By the way, I've used these guys for years. This is a 4-port one. They make an 8-port one. They're available online. They're not the least expensive, but you know what? They are bulletproof. You can trust them. And I sent them my Node-RED flow and said, hey, we did this in Node-RED, which just gives you a better user interface. And they published it on their webpage. But they got a whole pile of USB relays and web relays and LAN relay controllers that really just fit everything we want to do. This is I think the one I use.
They have a whole slew of stuff.
Yeah. But this thing in how long have I been at this now? Since about 2005. These have given me zero grief.
Yeah.
And these ones need to work, because when all heck fails, this is, as you said, with the web browser interface, this is the one, and I'll bring it up in a minute. This is the one that's got to work for me.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
and the other port that you want to configure is to your PTT. So if you have to reconfigure SmartLink and re-authenticate it, it's going to ask you to hit your PTT. Well, you can't do that remotely, so you just toggle that relay on and off, and it hits your PTT and turns it off. So those are the only two. There's a lot of stuff going on the board. Yep, there it is, right there. Yep.
Yeah. But the nice thing too is, if you want to fancy this up, you can do that later. But it's incredibly reliable. You can see this on an iPhone or an Android phone or whatever. This happens to be this is the second one, so I've still got a whole bunch of relays left. But so I turn off the 6500 power, and then you see this one here is push to talk. If I click that, I've just got it plugged into the CW key, I think, or the push to talk on the back of the radio.
Yeah.
And that's for those once in a blue moon, if you change the password on SmartLink and you got to hit the microphone, why not? It's there. So.
I've never had to use that, but it's a good failsafe.
Yeah. Cool.
So those are the only two things you need. I mean, there's a lot going on this board, and I'll go through some of the other stuff, but those are the only two components. Wouldn't you think, Mike, that you kind of need to maybe get started?
Yeah, you can worry about antennas and stuff. If you only have one or two antennas, then the radio handles that. So I want you to talk. I know what the two boxes are in the top right, but I always get this question all the time. So why don't you elaborate on what they do?
Yeah, so the two black boxes up at the top, on the board, they're on the top right-hand side. They are Paradan. You're talking about those?
Yep.
A Paradan antenna relays. And you can get them from DX Engineering. They're I think that they're $100 a pop, but then you can get another box that's got two, and I think it's like $10 or $15 off. Basically, what happens is you've got your antenna coming from the outside to one side, and then you bring your coax from your Flex on antenna port number 1 or 2 to the other side. And when power is applied, so you want to wire this up to your power supply that possibly is supplying power to your Flex, they engage. And whenever power is disengaged, the relays disengage, and it disconnects your antennas and performs, basically a small air gap for your antennas. I've been told that, Mike, again, keep me honest here, I talked to the guys that created these, and they said that there is some lightning protection built into those devices.
Yep.
So
it won't help you in a direct strike.
No, nothing.
When everything melts, but for the nearby feeder strikes, and if you want, go read the anatomy of a lightning strike. There's a bunch of videos on YouTube and stuff, and it's quite unique. And then I'll notice you've got a healthy bunch of chokes, as every good ham should.
Yep, I will. I'll get to another picture. This is version 1. There's version 2 and version 3. There's a lot of wires. This was kind of like, I'm going to put this in my parents' house, and I'm going to see if I'm going to prove this out and see if it works. And this configuration stayed in at the parents' house for, probably a year and a half, maybe.
So this is V1, which we all go
V1.
through. I'm on V4, and I think I'm stuck. I think I've sort of got there.
Yep. So V2 came along, and I was talking to my contest buddies, and the pandemic hit, and we couldn't contest. So it opened up a whole new world of, hey, we'd like to do some remote operating. I'm like, I've got the perfect solution. Why don't I take my Flex out of my parents' house with a dipole and an end fed, and why don't we put it down at the contest station? And this contest station is by Steelville, Missouri. It's E-Layer Contest Club, and it's a bunch of guys here in Missouri and actually Illinois and even Iowa, Indiana, come and contest at this location. So it's up on a hill. It's got 3 towers. And it's 160 through 6 meters, and it's a beast. So I was excited to put my Flex down there. What you're seeing here is version 2. Basically, it's the same stuff, but a lot cleaner. A new board.
A new piece of plywood. Before it got really expensive.
Right.
It's about $50 in plywood.
Right. And I was going to put this obviously in a contest location, so I had to do a lot more things to get it up to snuff, and that was better bonding and grounding, and also a lot more chokes on it. So you can see the Mix 31 ferrites there that are coming off of the web relay, the digital loggers, and it's still part of the system. But basically anything that had a wall wart on it got a choke on it.
And you saw and heard the difference, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's amazing how just even the smallest little power supply can put a couple of birdies, either all over 20 meters or just one location. Ben, because there was no birdies to begin with at this location, I knew that if I was introducing anything, it would be my fault.
I have I'm at the cottage where ours is, and we've got UV water filters, and the boathouse, of course, is awful when there's that's where there's an apartment up there. But as we get into summer and it gets used, and sure enough, the other day, where'd all that crap come from? I walk over with the Maestro and I go and watch it, and I pull the plug off the UV filter, and they'll go, ooh.
Nope.
So okay, well, I can't turn that off, so I turn it back on. And I just deal with it. But then I added a bunch of chokes just to the power supply lead, and I knocked them down almost 80%. And they're now, they're so far in the noise. In a really quiet day, I see the 80-meter ones, but at night, I don't see them even. So
yeah.
And that's a problem with our Flex radios. It's a real big problem. You now have an amazing piece of test equipment, and it shows everything.
You have no idea how much stuff is out there until you can see it and hear it in the waterfall and go, that's every 30 kilohertz. That's a switching power supply, right? If I was going to do that with another radio, I'd have to get out the calculator and be like, okay, there's a birdie, there's a birdie, there's a birdie, There's
a question from Don, by the way. You were getting to that.
Yes, so. Correct, Don. That is a dual port Paradan relay. So I have this setup. And we'll get to version 3, but this setup, I basically bought all new stuff and put it on the board and got the IP space and did some other stuff to kind of pretty up this board before I took it out there. So that Paradan that you see is a brand new one that I bought from DX Engineering. You can see the choke on that. And then basically the Flex is here. Let me see if I can. The Flex is sitting here on the floor with a linear power supply.
And the radio gets further away, which is sort of like it doesn't have to sit front and center anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was version 2.
Where are you buying your chokes, by the way? I know people are going to ask. Mix 43, Mix 31s. 31s are probably better for HF generally.
Yep. I get them from Mauser. You can get them from Mauser. You can get them from Newark. I found that Newark is a little bit cheaper than Mauser. But
if you've got the part number, let us know. If not, I'm going to have people just email you for the part number, because sometimes they're a little harder to find in Mauser unless you have the exact part number.
Yes.
There'll be FT240-31 is the vendor name, but the actual SKU will be a trick.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Yeah, look me up on QRZ and shoot me an email, and I'll shoot you out the part number. So this was the configuration of, is it going to work? This was to prove to the contest people, the station owner, hey, this is acceptable, right? This is going to work. So after we got done with that, I started looking around on the internet and decided, all right, it can't live here on the floor because it is in position number 2. There's 2 positions in this contest station. This is setting in front of position number 2. And the owner's like, we got to get this somewhere else. And I'm like, okay, let me get to version 3 here. So what I did was, this was the start of it. So what?
Did you buy it or abscond with it from somewhere?
Some of the stuff was in a dumpster that I found, and it magically got into the back of my truck. So what you're seeing here is it's a 2-post rack. 2-post racks are made for networking equipment in data centers. And if you can get yourself a 2-post rack, you can get these on eBay. They're pretty cheap. Sometimes they're less than $100. This is a 7-foot rack that you're looking at. And the difference between a 2-post and a 4-post rack are typically 4 posts are used for servers. And you can use a 4-post rack. Just make sure that you do your research on what type of rack that you need for your space.
And how deep it is. So 4-post is like it's got 2 front, 2 rear.
Yeah.
And a 2-post only has 2 up the middle.
Right.
Type of thing. And you really need to actually bolt. You should really take the 2 posters and bolt them to the floor when you're done.
You should.
Yeah.
That is.
Ask me how I know.
Yeah, you're totally right.
Especially with repeaters.
Yes.
Good thing you have feed lines, because it helps keep it upright.
Yes. We are going on the assumption that hopefully, if the new Madrid earthquake hits, that we got bigger problems, right? So what you're seeing here is the 2-post rack, and in the bottom are a couple of shelves, right, that span the front and the back of the rack. And I'll get to a picture. We're going to put all the heavy stuff in the bottom, right? And then we're going to put all the light stuff up at the top. That top part is a piece of plywood with aluminum sheeting on it. And you're like, why is there aluminum sheeting on this? Well, that is your source of ground for all the things that you're going to mount on it. And then you can take straps and mount that to your grounding bus bar, which then obviously bounds to your main source of ground, which is on the other side of the picture here. So all of the things that run the station, the remote stuff, get screwed into the top of this, and all of the things, the active equipment that run the station, the flex and the PC and the power supply, are all at the bottom. This over here on the left-hand side, this is a vertical manager, and basically it just runs the length, and it's got these fingers that extend out, and you can buy these on eBay too. And they allow you to put all the wires and hide all the wires neatly. So if you go get a rack, you might want to take a look to see if you can get these vertical managers that bolt to the side of the rack that make everything kind of disappear for your your wires, your power distribution, whatever you want to put into this.
You can go into every town I've ever been in. It's got a surplus office supply.
Yeah.
And they go in and they'll buy a whole office for pennies on the dollar, and then they'll try to sell it for half retail.
Yep.
So you can actually go in and haggle and get it. If the guy's tired of staring at something, he'd be happy to get rid of it and go in. So you can find these, you can find the vertical racks, you can find really good chairs.
Yep.
And especially, I hate to say it due to COVID, because that whole technology part of the world's doing a topsy-turvy right now, and it's still doing that. And as businesses realign and they're not paying, they had to get rid of all this stuff. So,
yep.
So keep that in mind.
A few years ago, there was a warehouse that was closing up, and they dealt with cell phone providers. And they announced on just Facebook that they were going to come up and make an offer. And I went up there, and it was like the holy grail. Like I think I bought $500 worth of stuff, and it was all in the pickup truck.
So probably what, $10,000-$15,000 new?
Yeah, I mean, it was insane. Like, my ham friends were like, "How did you get this?" I'm just like, "Oh, it was a little secret that I."
Yeah. So I'll speed you up a little bit. So
Yep.
We've got lots of time, but I just didn't want to go on. By the way, did you notice Alan joined? So you can say hi to Alan.
Hi, Alan. How are you? From the Node Red.
Somebody else who didn't sleep for a month.
Yeah, right. So let's get to the final, what this looks like today. So here's that rack. Here's the sheeting that you see on it. And basically, it's everything that you see on the plywood that is attached to the metal sheeting. And the metal sheeting is ground to the bus bar. I've got another rack here, or another plate that spans, the across these bars that has got the internet modem and this switch that I'm eventually going to get rid of because everything will plug into the back of the modem. Here is my Flex 6700, so it's sitting on a shelf. Down here is the PC that's sitting on the shelf, and then also the power supply that's sitting on the shelf. And you can see all of the cables come into this vertical manager, and because there's holes in the back of the vertical manager, they get pushed to the back. And here is, let's see, let me get to the back of the rack. So there's the Paradan antenna disconnect, and all of the cables, get routed in the back. You can see all the cables down here. And here's another picture of the Flex is plugged into the modem. The PC is plugged into the modem, and I would highly, highly suggest, if you're going to put a PC at the remote end, please plug it in. Don't put it on wireless. Plug everything into Ethernet. If you can use shielded cables, you can get good shielded cables off the internet, but plug it in. Wireless is going to eventually give you problems, probably whenever you first do FT8. That's probably when you're going to see the problems.
So let me ask, so was this the first Flex that the club was exposed to?
Yes.
And what did they think? What's the feedback?
Awesome. What am I looking at? This is unbelievable. So I am hopefully going to be able to put another 6600 down there, and we're going to replace the the jury's still out. We still have some people that need to connect into it, and people that are higher up on the totem pole than I am. But I'm hopeful that once we get rolling here, that this is going to be maybe the path that we're going to move forward to on having the radios there locally that we can go and contest multi at and do remote. Even if somebody doesn't want to drive into the contest station, we can do multi remote.
Yeah, very good. And by the way, if you're thinking of trying something like this and it's a bit foreign to you, go to the club, find the guy that's the repeater operator.
Yeah.
Because this is exactly, we've just moved it over to HF. In fact, if not, it's easier because I don't have to worry about full duplexers and cavities and RF mixing and that stuff. I want to point out a couple of things for those that are maybe a little challenged today because soldering is foreign to them, or you just can't do it anymore because you've lost your fine motor skills. They make just about every connector on the back of the 6700. If you look where Kyle's got his mouse, they make those screw terminal connectors. You can get them in RCA. You can actually get them in 4-pin TRRS because I found a couple. Every time I see something I don't have, I always buy a couple. And now I solder all my stuff, but if I have to make a quick field repair somewhere, These just screw-on terminals are really good. And I noticed Kyle's has his zip ties of different colors, so he can track things.
Yep.
And and even there's none here, but I've been doing pictures of remote foot switches and stuff. You can get DB9 connectors with 9-pin, and so don't let that shy you away from doing a project, because you may have to break out the soldering iron, or it's just so hard to do now. Right. And I get it. Some people, we're all getting a little older, and the eyesight's not the same, and the fine motor skills at the fingertips are not the same. Or like me, when I tried to cut off my thumb with a bread knife, I'm still waiting for the rest of the feeling to come back on my thumb. It's funny, it changes about every week. And that was back in, I don't know, January, I think I did that. So always cut away from the bread.
Yes.
Your thumb.
The nice thing, so if you're going to tackle your remote system, don't think of it as a whole. I mean, you have to think of it as a whole, but tackle one part of it and get that, and then tackle the next part of it, and break it up into chunks.
And do it at home first.
Yeah, and do it at home first. And don't don't take it out to a buddy's house. Put it at your house. Buy this, get to know that, and then buy that, and then get to know this, and then do all of those things locally, and feel comfortable on how you would get into it remotely from somewhere else, or how you would even recover from like a power outage or something like that. And you don't have to do this overnight, and it doesn't have to be hard, right?
It's how do you eat an elephant?
How do you eat an elephant?
One piece at a time.
One piece at a time. Yep.
There was a question I want to answer that were to go. Of course, hi Dave. Dave joined.
Dave.
And can you guess who did this? There he is.
Yep.
So
I've been talking to Jason, and we're trying to plan a trip. I might, if my work schedule abides, I might be in Costa Rica sometime.
So and Jason, I fell asleep, so you can have a chuckle over that. Kyle knows the story. So David had a question here: is Flex Radio Systems going to do an SDR and a radio? And the answer is no. And I always say subject to change, but I don't think we'd ever do this again. Now, we did it with the Flex 5000, and it became the C for computer, which was great, but you're then it's a big can of worms, and because everybody wants something different. So it's just so convenient now to sell the radio. You put it on the LAN and take whatever computer is on sale at Best Buy or Costco, or a Nook or a thin client, and you're really good to go. The installation of Smart Sdr and to get it running is pretty straightforward. And I guess I'm going to have to get Mark or Dave rather. Don from Slice Master to join us. Actually got a nice email from him today. I had a problem and he had to answer me. So he's had a bit of a wrinkle in his life, so that's why his development in Slice Master has been a bit paused. But he'll get back to it. And no, David, no need to apologize. That's okay. It's an excellent question, by the way. And I still haven't pried all the covers off all the cool things Slice Master does. I have the same thing with FR Stack. I haven't done, and I think Mark's on the video today too. So thanks for Mark and for doing all the work he does.
Last weekend I just got a Stream Deck, so I'm excited to hook that up with FR Stack and see what it can do. And
that was Mark. I don't know where you thought of that, but that was amazing. Yeah. And then one of the cool things I like about Slice Master too is there's a built-in Telnet server DX cluster. So if you're watching FT8 and that's in there, you can actually log into yourself and bring it up in your own DX cluster.
Oh, wow.
Type of thing. So thing. So anyway, any other quick questions?
KD0RC asks, how are you managing CW?
Oh, Len, you know that answer.
Yeah. So I am managing CW through, I've got a keyer here that I use remote keyer, the software.
Remote keyer interface.
Remote keyer interface. That's one way.
Yeah.
And then also the latency is so good between my station and the contest station that I don't have any problem hearing the CW with logging into my remote computer and launching N1MM that way and doing it all remotely. Mm-hmm. Now, I think your mileage may vary a little bit, but I don't have any problem with CW on the remote computer.
Right. So there's that's that's certainly high on the list. We hear this every week. I can't hear the N1MM generated CW. Now, why is that? It's because the CW side tone is generated on the device that does the keying. And if you pry the covers off, this makes sense because in CW, latency of 10 or 15 milliseconds is a huge piece of latency.
Yep.
So in N1MM, like we call CQ, and that's actually generated by the wind keyer in the physical radio. Okay, so, well, can't you just echo that audio back? And yes, we should be able to. It's a long story. Believe me, it's really high on the list to address. Kevin got his Stream Deck, and Joe V3 Golf Kilo Tango asked about a little off topic, but an ICOM 9700 equivalent type of thing, always on the table. And I'll be blunt, it really comes down to, will it be economical to build, and can we sell enough of them to make enough money to pay the people who developed it? So it comes down to economics. So it's never no, and yeah, we get it. So yeah, so that's about it. Brian, you know what, Brian? What you're gonna love is there's no phase noise because and the bandpass filters built into both these radios for field day. It's going to make your life so easy. We hear this all the time.
I'll let you in on a little secret. For Missouri QSO, we are going out to a remote location, and we're going to have 5 flexes on the air at the remote location, and we are going to try and run CW, digital, and single sideband all on one band with flexes.
We'll have to interview or do something before or after when it fits in.
I'm going to make some videos, but we are fully expecting that we're going to put 3 flex radios on the same band and have no issues.
Okay. You want to answer Jason's question?
Who makes FR Stack? That is
Mark Hansen. Mark
Hansen. If you type in FR Stack into your favorite Google machine, it should be the first one. It's like MK Software. Something along those lines.
Yep.
And the nice thing is FR Stack, you can run it on a Raspberry Pi, you can run it on Windows, you can run it on almost anything. I've got mine running on a Raspberry Pi that interacts with Node-RED, which is awesome. Yeah, Jason, I found the website, wondering the person's name. Yep.
I'm going to bring it up because between FR Stack and I'll make this a little bigger, and Slice Master and a couple of other tools are like all these little add-ons that just really round out so many things. So this should make it bigger. There we go. And so Mark's here. Actually, I think I saw him go by. But if there's some cool feature you want, Mark's probably done it.
Yeah.
And it runs on your PC. These S-meter features type of thing. I can be, and it's Smart Link aware. So I can be remote from my radio, bring up FR Stack on the PC I'm using, not even the remote PC, and do some cool things as well. Yeah. He supports remote foot switches, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So
it's one of those pieces of software you don't know how you lived without it until you install it and you're like, wow, this is awesome.
Like DD Util is another one in.
There are so many. This is the great thing I love about Flex is there's so many third-party applications that people have created that just make the integration so easy. Mm-hmm. It's just it's great. It's a great time to live in where you've got all of these pieces of software to help you in your ham radio journey.
Kevin's got a really good question here, and the answer is no. And I'll give you my Mac story. I had a customer tell me this yesterday. And by the way, I use both. I use both extensively. Both work great, and both have the same but different pain in the ass problems. So everybody going, I'm tired of Windows. I'm going to Mac. It's so much better. It's just so much different, and in a kind way. And there is no FR Stack for Mac. However, a lot of the features in FR Stack might be already built into Smart Sdr for Mac, so you may want to check. There's some, Marcus has done some really cool things where he's done some different integration. There's nothing to prevent you from writing your own application to work with the radio, because the Flex API, or even the direct connection of the radio, now that may sound a little foreign, is wide open. It's not a secret. It's not encrypted in the LAN. Okay, the smart link is encrypted just in case the security guys jump at me. But if you want to start doing your own stuff, your own version of Flex Radio Hello World, you want to make a better push to talk switch, you can do it, and we'll glad to help you. And
there's Mark's.
What's Mark saying?
Yeah, there you go.
And
there's your answer.
So yeah, cool stuff. Maybe we'll convince Mark to come on someday. And here we go. And this is the one we're talking about a whole bunch of different things. So Mark, thank you.
Yeah. If you don't know what a Stream Deck is, it's made for gamers and streamers, but basically it's got these little TV icons, and they're just macros, and you can buy this thing that sits on your desk, and it's got like 15 buttons, and each button does something, and you can press the button, and the button will take you to 40 meter CW, or it'll do this or do that, and you can configure that in FR Stack the way that you want it, and all that stuff is automatic. It's great.
And Alan, I didn't know this, so maybe you can add is there a link or anywhere you can just sort of get started with? You can share in the chat window underneath. That would be awesome. And the Stream Decks, by the way, all these buttons are little OLEDs or OLEDs, or like little TVs. So if you change a button to say 40 meter CW in the configurator, it says 40 meter CW on your desk.
Yeah,
type of thing. So
Alan
cool. didn't know that. So yeah, and by the way, and you can use it for more than ham radio stuff, and you can stack up buttons, have different folders. I have sound effects I use for ham radio workbench. When I'm on that, it just plays. You want to start some Adobe thing, and maybe you're using for video editing. You can set up buttons, so it's pretty cool. Here's another Kevin thing. Oh, I lost it. There he is. And but yeah, there's just keep going, right? This is the advantage of being able to. It's on Mark's README. Oh, okay. There we go. Huh.
Very good.
It's right.
Yeah.
Good. Good. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining. And Kyle, anything else you want to add? And you're doing field day?
Yes. Haven't decided where. I think that I might do a tour of St. Louis, of going to all the field days around the area. I'll probably eventually make it home here and fire up the remote station, and maybe I'll stream it live on. We'll do it live.
Maybe we should just all get in a plane and we'll go to Costa Rica and operate Jason's station.
There you go. That's an idea. What are your plans for field day? What are you going to do?
I'm not sure yet. We were going to, I'm a true ham. Okay, I work here, but I still play with other vendor stuff. And I'll be honest, a couple of us were going to go to an island here in Northern Ontario, but and just do casual CW here and there. Nothing serious, but just unique. That's the cool thing about. We still haven't nailed that down yet, but so we probably wouldn't be using one of our radios. It might use a 705. But it's cool, and it allows me to play with the other stuff as well. And
that's the, not to gush or not anything, but that's the one thing I love about the Flex employees is they're not afraid to say that they use other radios, or there's something else out there. Some of the vendors, you talk to them and they're just like, I don't want to hear anything about the other radios, and you're just like, okay, that's cool.
Product research.
Yeah. Exactly. I'm like, don't you want to know?
I do want to know, and I love the hobby, right? I really do.
Right.
And when I come forward, I try to come forward with stuff that I've learned, what I've done, and I put my Flex hat on. Oh, absolutely, and because I do love the product. I love the people I work with, who are absolutely wonderful. It's the nicest job I've ever had. Yeah. And but yeah, I still play with everything. I've got a couple of ICOM things on my bench, and where they fill in my gaps, and etc. So and why not? And there's no one perfect radio.
Right.
There's no one perfect car, chainsaw, or anything.
So whenever I go out and work portable, I don't bring a Flex with me, right? I bring a portable radio that is made for portable operations, right? So there's not, like you said, you got to pick the correct radio for the operation that you wanna play in, right?
Yep. So good, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know when. I don't have a next show planned yet, but I'll think of something. And we stopped for a while, but it was only because I couldn't find anything that was new. I just didn't want to rehash the same old stuff. And Kevin, you can email Mark. I think he's got a link how to email him. So drop that. Here's the question. So because we're about to shut down, but etc. Well, no. Yeah, I don't know. We'll save that for you to go dig in. You guys can chat about it here on whatever tool you're seeing that on, because we see them from multiple streams. 73, everybody.
73. Thank you.
And Mark's answer was yes. There you go. Take care. Bye now.